In the early days of 2026, the Middle East woke up to disturbing reports. These weren't headlines about politics or economics, but whispers of something far more dangerous. They hinted at a new and volatile chapter in an already unstable region. What began as secret weapons transfers turned into intercepted convoys, and finally erupted into a regional crisis involving Saudi Arabia, Yemen, and the United Arab Emirates. This isn't a movie plot. It's not a conspiracy theory. This is the story of how a silent tension reportedly exploded, pushing three nations to the brink. To understand how we reached this point, we need to look at the deep-rooted hostility between Saudi Arabia and Yemen. These two nations share a long and incredibly complicated history. For years, Saudi officials have accused armed groups inside Yemen of being a direct threat to their borders. Meanwhile, Yemen's own internal conflict has created a power vacuum, allowing various tribal factions to gain influence and operate far beyond the central government's control. It's a fragile, chaotic environment. By late 2025, intelligence sources from around the world began issuing stark warnings. They claimed that new, powerful actors were quietly stepping onto this volatile stage. One name surfaced again and again in these classified reports: the United Arab Emirates. According to regional security documents that have since been analyzed, the UAE was allegedly involved in a covert operation, supplying advanced weapons to a powerful Yemeni tribal group. The official purpose, if there ever was one, was never declared. But intelligence assessments and analysts painted a clear picture. The goal, they suggested, was to weaken Yemen as central authority and fundamentally reshape the local power dynamics in the UAE's favor. These weapons were reportedly moved under the cover of darkness, using clandestine routes to avoid any international attention or scrutiny. However, this move didn't go unnoticed. In Riyadh, it triggered serious alarm bells. The Saudi government saw this not as a minor incident, but as a direct challenge to its influence and security. Saudi Arabia's response was swift and unambiguous. Sources familiar with the situation say that Riyadh sent a clear, explicit warning to the UAE. No weapons were to enter Yemen without its direct approval and oversight. From the Saudi perspective, this unsanctioned shipment was more than just a delivery of arms. It was viewed as a direct threat to the delicate regional balance of power. It was seen as a blatant violation of long-standing security understandings between the Gulf allies. And most dangerously, it was considered a potential spark that could ignite a much wider, uncontrollable conflict. Despite these direct warnings from one of its closest allies, the weapons convoy reportedly continued its journey toward the Yemeni border. And that's when everything changed. This moment became the critical turning point. As the alleged weapons shipment crossed into Yemeni territory, Saudi surveillance technology was reportedly tracking its every move in real time. Satellites and drones were said to be locked onto the convoy. Moments later, Saudi forces intervened. There was no dramatic firefight reported, no civilian footage that went viral, and no public battlefield images. What we have are confirmed reports from multiple intelligence agencies that the weapons were successfully intercepted and seized before they could ever reach their intended destination, the tribal forces waiting inside Yemen. The message sent by this action was unmistakable and powerful. Saudi Arabia was demonstrating, with force, that it would not allow new power players to arm proxy groups within Yemen. It had drawn a red line. Following the interception, a heavy, diplomatic silence fell over the region. There were no immediate public statements, no accusations, no denials. Shortly after the incident, however, reports began to emerge that UAE personnel involved in the operation had quietly withdrawn. There was no official admission of their involvement, and certainly no press conference explaining their retreat. It was simply a quiet, calculated step back. Analysts across the world described it as a strategic retreat, carefully designed to prevent a direct, open confrontation with Saudi Arabia. The UAE, it seemed, had tested a boundary and found it heavily defended. But even though a direct clash was avoided, the damage to the relationship and the regional trust was already done. The seeds of a new conflict had been sown. By January 2026, a single word began to dominate the analysis of regional experts: escalation. The silent tension had broken the surface. Tensions surged across the borders of all three countries. Military readiness levels were reportedly raised on both sides of the Saudi-Yemeni border. Diplomatic channels, once a reliable tool for de-escalation, became strained and unproductive. This wasn't a formal declaration of war. There were no armies marching across deserts, but it marked the beginning of a dangerous new phase in their relationship. A phase where proxy actions, covert interceptions, and silent military operations replaced open dialogue and cooperation. The rules of the game had changed, and the entire region was now on high alert. So, what does this silent war actually mean for the future of the Middle East? Experts are warning that this incident is not an isolated event, but a sign of things to come. The most immediate prediction is a rise in more covert operations. As direct conflict becomes too risky, we're likely to see an increase in proxy warfare, cyber attacks, and intelligence games. Secondly, this event has shattered the illusion of Gulf unity, leading to increased mistrust between former allies. This could have long-term consequences for regional security alliances. For Yemen, this means even greater instability. With powerful neighbors competing for influence on its soil, the path to peace becomes even more difficult and distant. And finally, we are witnessing a significant shift in Gulf power dynamics. The old order is being challenged, and new, more assertive policies are taking its place. Even without open battles, this conflict has clearly entered a dangerous new zone. As 2026 continues to unfold, one thing has become crystal clear. This is about so much more than a single shipment of weapons. This is a struggle for influence, for control, and for the enforcement of non-negotiable red lines. Saudi Arabia has drawn its line in the sand, demonstrating its willingness to use force to protect its interests. The UAE has, for now, taken a step back, choosing to de-escalate rather than confront its powerful neighbor. And Yemen, as it has been for so long, remains the epicenter of a storm that could grow in intensity at any moment. The question is no longer if tensions exist between these regional powers. That is now painfully obvious. The real question is, who will make the next move, and what will the consequences be for us all? Thanks for watching. If you found this analysis insightful, be sure to subscribe to the channel for more deep dives into global events. We'll be tracking this story as it develops. Stay informed and stay safe.